Welcome to Supply Chain Talks. My name is Kristian Mortensen. I'm a Senior Director, Global Partnership and Alliances at project44. And today, I'm also your host for Supply Chain Talks. project44 has hand-curated a strong partner network in order to extend and enable the best possible customer experience. During spring and summer, we welcome you to our partner series, Supply Chain Talks. These conversations touch on current developments in global supply chains and the world of logistics. Today, we warmly welcome Mr. Martin Carlsen to Supply Chain Talks. Martin is Director, Consulting Services at Accelalpha. Martin, I'm very pleased to have you join. Welcome.
Thanks, Kristian. I'm very pleased to be here with you and representing Accelalpha. We are quite happy with the relationship we have with project44.
Thank you, Martin. Working closely with you, I often benefit from your valuable background. From my memory, 14 years with DB Schenker, then over to Oracle, and now you lead Accelalpha's consulting services in Europe. Can you give us a few highlights or interesting experiences from your years in the world of logistics?
So when I joined the logistics area some 20 years ago, my manager at the time, he told me, there's not a lot I can promise you, but I can promise you that you're never gonna see 2 days look alike. And I must say that definitely over the years, there's been many changes in logistics consumption, from short trends to major technology shifts. The latter years are not exceptions to these constant changes. In the last year, we've all learned how local and global activities and events can and will impact logistics. We've seen Brexit, we've seen COVID, we've seen what happened in the Suez Channel, all of them calling for the same type of solutions, which includes resilient supply chains, visibility and transparency. The expectations from the business to consumers and the professional buyers keep calling for more and more visibility, putting higher and higher demand on what is being delivered from the technology.
I really agree with you, Martin. On top of that, the world of freight forwarders is slowly consolidating with companies like DB Schenker, Kühne + DSV Panalpina, DHL, CEVA, and a few more taking the global leadership. On the trucking side, we have an extremely fragmented industries, and shippers must manage logistics service providers in a very competitive, high volume, and often low margin business. How important is digitalization for the various parties in the global supply chain, and who is taking the lead?
Well, to take the latter question first, I think it's very difficult to say who's taking the lead, but definitely the large players that you're mentioning, like DSV, DB Schenker, Kühne + Panalpina, they're certainly driving changes and enforcing and empowering their suppliers to step up and take a stronger lead on having technology available, because the day-to-day tracking becomes mandatory. Everybody wants to know exactly where the shipments are, and the ability for us to be able to say exactly which route will be used becomes increasingly important, as well as measuring other things than purely the route that is taken, but also keeping track of temperatures and all kind of different things. We do see that some of the smaller mom and dad carriers are a little bit slow at adapting to the required technology, but I do find that in order for them to play with the larger logistics service providers, they need to step up, and a lot of them are starting to step up.
For sure. Help me out here. What's the biggest hurdle? Choosing the right TMS, implementing the TMS, or getting the right data to or from the TMS? Or is it something else?
I was really intrigued by that question. I think that the end result is somewhere in between. A successful implementation does require the right application to support it. On the other hand, a good application does require a successful implementation in order to bring the benefits. So I don't think it's one or the other, but it's a combination. I actually think the biggest hurdle is making sure that everybody have the right vision from the beginning and have the willingness to change. We've seen companies where we're trying to engage that are saying really what we're looking for is to automate the process we're having today. And that leads us to conversation where we're saying, okay, but if you don't have an optimized process today, then all you're doing is taking a poor process and streamlining it. So if you don't want to go through the whole exercise of gaining the benefits, then you're missing out on an opportunity to really streamline and optimize your supply chain. And that's where the cost savings are.
Martin, does Accelalpha mainly work with implementing Oracle OTM or something else also?
So Accelalpha have deep roots in ERP, supply chain, and CX implementations, but we are only supporting Oracle applications and the community around Oracle. But we are an Oracle house. We do have the largest OTM practice in the world, but we do support end-to-end ERP and CX as well.
Clear. Recently, I was reading on Gartner's website that when it comes to supply chain digitalization, 23% of supply chain leaders expect to have a digital ecosystem by 2025. And here's a surprise, up from only 1% today. Is that a situation that mirrors in your world?
We certainly see more and more companies showing an interest in supply chain and digitalization of the supply chain. And really, if you think about it, how many companies have a supply chain that they don't have full control over, even though that supply chain might equate to 10, 15, 20% of the revenue of the company? And imagine a CEO that has that responsibility and not the ability to do anything about it because they don't have it digitalized. At the same time, we are seeing that the cloud deployment methodologies that are coming out from many companies, not only Oracle, but also competitors to Oracle, is enabling companies of a smaller and medium size to also focus on getting the supply chain digitalized.
Martin, when it comes to implementing a TMS, it's most likely something like, let's say, improve processes, avoid cost, save time, and avoid risk. That often are the most important. What are the key areas that you and your team is focusing on?
I do hear some companies starting to focus on environmental implications and have a desire to start reporting on their environmental footprint. However, I must say that the main headlines are still gaining a cost-effective, resilient supply chain that gives end-to-end visibility at all times.
Well, we are both Danish, so let's say in the Nordics and perhaps even in Europe, do large companies struggle to develop their capabilities needed for digital supply chain transformation?
No, actually, I would actually argue the other way around, that within the Nordics, there is an early adaptation mentality. I mean, the workforce in our region is quite expensive. So you want to have as much automated as possible. So there is an early adaptation. There is a desire also because of some of the distances that we have, perhaps not so much in Denmark as we would see in Finland, Norway, and Sweden, but certainly there is an interest, and we're also seeing that the IT capabilities of drivers and so on and so forth are quite high. So there is a willingness to adapt and move forward and learn things fairly quickly.
Can you share how you, let's say, support companies in creating an effective roadmap for their digital supply chain transformation?
So as Accelalpha, we understand the need of also doing business consultancies. One of the reasons acquisitions that we've done as a company is acquiring a partner of ours called KPI that can really help us go through the whole supply chain understanding and support companies in coming up with the most appropriate strategy for their future rollouts. And then obviously once we start looking at implementations, we do go through a large effort in making sure that we have a full picture of what is the end goal and how do we get to that end goal.
Martin, my last question, just to round things off. Things have changed. Now I have been working from home for more than 1 year. So in your world, if you have to implement Oracle OTM, but you can't have yourself and your people go on site to implement like it was traditionally done, how is that working today?
So definitely, when cloud was really being implemented, there was already a shift in how we were approaching the projects, how the dialogue were with the customers on how far can we get just by using standard application, forcing the standard solution to deliver exactly what we're looking for. Now, that entails quite a few lengthy workshops to fully understand and embrace what is the requirement from the client. These workshops are very, very lengthy, being hosted on Zooms and Teams, and sitting 5-10 days in a row, 8 hours discussing. That is quite hard, and I must say that's been a challenge for us. And I'm really impressed about how far the team has managed to get in that respect of getting the dialogue with the clients, but also the clients given the time and having the discussion and the understanding of what are they actually looking for, because it's a whole learning curve that you get started, and it's really interesting, and the possibilities are endless.
With that, Martin, we reach the end. So big personal mange tak, many thanks for our partnership and for you for joining Supply Chain Talks today. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristian. It was definitely a pleasure to be here.